Hello and welcome to the Bridetender podcast. I'm your host, Esty Gordon, and I'm here to tend to the brides like I tend to the bar. So mix yourself a cocktail and let's get ready to discuss all things weddings. Today, I'm excited to talk about one of my favorite places, which is Florida. I'm ready to book myself a one-way ticket there and never come back, truthfully. And I'm talking with Florida wedding planner Taylor Reis, and we're going to discuss Florida weddings, how things go in a pre-COVID world, in a during COVID world, and answer any questions that you guys might have, regarding Florida weddings. So first and foremost, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And if you decide to buy a one-way ticket to Florida, I'll pick you up from the airport and we'll never look back.
Honestly, we're getting pretty close. And when we're looking back.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and go over everything that's going on right now, like you said, with COVID, post-COVID, and how that looks for planning a wedding in Florida.
Yes. Well, first, I want to ask you, how are you doing during this time?
I'm doing good, thankfully and luckily. A lot of my weddings moved from last year into this year, and the remainder that didn't move into this year did move into 2022. So I'm thankful that they did move, and we are, full speed ahead for planning within this year and then some within next year. And I am starting to see weddings pick up a little bit in regards to inquiries and people just interested in overall planning. That's picking up a little bit. So it keeps me hopeful for the remainder of the year. And like I said, into next year.
I'm with you on that. Just being in New York, we have, we've had a lot of restrictions and things are starting to turn around. So I'm also kind of hopeful for this year and then, of course, for next year and hopefully beyond for forever.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully we don't have to talk about this time next year, or even later in the year. But I always say that it's kind of cliche, maybe corny, but I always say love isn't canceled and neither should your planning. So, whether someone is getting married later this year or even looking into like 2023, planning is not canceled. Weddings are not canceled. And, people are still getting engaged and falling in love. So we'll just keep up with that.
100%. Plus, it gives you something to do and something to look forward to. So,
yeah, during quarantine and when we were on strict lockdown here, everyone was saying like, oh, I have nothing to do. And most people weren't working. So planning a wedding, one, gives you something to do. And then it gives you dates on the calendar that you can actually get excited about again. For like the 6 months last year that we were on lockdown here in Florida, no one had dates to look forward to. So I think it's exciting for couples to finally start putting things back on their calendar.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, like with your experience, you've been in the industry for a bunch of years and you've worked for some really great, very high-end hotels. You have your own business. How did you get into the industry?
Yeah, so I was actually in high school when I started to get into weddings. I went to my neighbor's wedding at a hotel here in Delray Beach, and like I said, still in high school, so hadn't gone to like any friends' weddings or anything like that. So this was the first wedding I ever went to, and I was like in shock that something could be like so gorgeous. And seeing my neighbor in her wedding dress, that I grew up with for 15 years, I was like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever been to in my life. I was like 14 or 15 at the time. So in high school, I started interning with a wedding planning company here, also located in Delray Beach. And she kind of took me under her wing and taught me all the ropes of planning. So I'd be in her office with her and we'd go over hair and makeup schedules for the girls on the day of, timelines, vendor load in, logistics, like what size is the dance floor and are the tables 60 or 72s, and all of that like just got my brain like going, and I never really looked back. But how I got into hotels originally, when her and I would work at a hotel for a wedding, we'd be on property, and of course the catering manager, the event manager would be there. And, they'd be in the back of house and they'd be doing the meal counts and, making sure banquets was on time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the other side to wedding planning, being at the actual hotel. So after I worked for the wedding planning company for 2.5 years, going on 3, I worked in hotels for about 5 years, some in South Beach, some here in Fort Lauderdale, a country club in Boca. So I've kind of been everywhere, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and Boca.
I mean, I truly feel I have like a similar kind of a similar situation to you, and I grew up in the catering world, that when you have that catering experience and knowledge, it really builds you to then take on, your own company and events, because you have that background, seeing what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It also helps you with timelines. So I found that when I started working in hotels, that the chef needs to know, like what time are you stopping, passing of hors d'oeuvres? What times do you want salads down? How, do you need 20 minutes between salads, or does the chef only need 15 to get the entrees out? So when I started doing timelines for my own events, I was like, okay, 100-person wedding. And I thought back on all the weddings that I did. And I'm like, all right, chef will need like 20 minutes for salad. We'll give him 5 just in case. And you can really build on a timeline like that. And just like other back of house information, like how long does it take to cut the wedding cake before it goes out to everybody. So not saying that you can't plan a wedding without back of house hotel experience, but it certainly helps.
Now, in Florida, just because I know that this is different from New York, what is considered wedding season over there?
Yeah. So here in Florida, it gets unbearably hot around like end of May. So you want to stay away from end of May, June, July, August. Then we get into hurricane season, August, September, middle of October. Really here, the weather starts to get beautiful mid-October. So I would say our season starts mid-October and goes until May.
Okay. So it's so funny. It's just like the opposite of ours, which goes from May to October.
Right. Yeah. Here, I mean, you can certainly do a wedding here, mid-August, but you just have to be aware that it is hurricane season. It is rainy season. So an indoor wedding is, totally recommended. But venues are more likely to give you a deal in August because, they're all fighting for business because no one does a wedding here in 105-degree weather. So, they're fighting for like an August wedding piece of business. So if any brides, want to save a little bit on food and beverage minimums or rentals, I suggest going with an off-season month here in Florida.
That's kind of how I tell brides over here about going in January, because they're so afraid with the snow. But I'm like, snow makes for some of the best pictures, and you will get a break on, you'll get a bunch of deals because everybody wants that January business.
Right. Yeah. I mean, same here. Like we'll cut your rental in half. I know when I used to work in hotels and I would get a lot of leads and it was for, like 100-person August wedding. I'm like, okay, we need to treat this wedding like it's the royal wedding. They can kind of come in here and have whatever they want. So off-season months are great for discounts. But in-season months are great for nice weather, Florida weather, and good pictures.
Exactly. There's always there's a plus side. There's a plus side to either side.
Yep, definitely.
So now with everything going on with the pandemic, how are Florida weddings being executed? Like, what are some of the rules, the guidelines that you guys have to follow down there?
Yeah, so our restrictions just changed a little bit. And I know a lot of the restrictions when I'm, venue sourcing for my clients, but a corporate venue like a hotel can operate at 50% capacity. And because they're corporate and it's not, like privately owned, they are pretty strict on that, I found lately. So if, the ballroom can hold 300 guests, they're really trying to stay at that 150 mark. or even less. And then in regards to setup, it's 6 guests per 72 inch and then 4 guests per 60 inch. And again, corporate hotels are very strict on that right now. However, there's, some rules. So, if I come with my husband and our 4 kids and our mother-in-law who lives with us, that's over the 6 guests per 72 inch, technically. However, because we're from the same household, we're able to sit at a table together. So, you would hope that when a bride and groom are doing their seating chart that, they are following that restriction. However, there's really no way to go up to a table and say, hey, you don't look like you're from this family, so do you belong at this table? So you would hope that they're following the rules, but like I said, there's no way to really know. And then just like a couple notes that you would never think, like in regards to the wedding cake, it has to be displayed close to the sweetheart table. And then they are still able to cut into the bottom piece. But, venues are saying like they don't recommend that you like stick the fork in it just in case. So they are just taking that cake straight into the back. They aren't even allowing you to, how some grooms like swipe their finger on the frosting and put it on the nose. They're doing like a, kind of hard stop on stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a different world, but I understand the guidelines for sure.
Yeah, and then in regards to like a buffet for a wedding, buffets or even displays or stations during cocktail hour, like a huge, like charcuterie display or like a pasta station. Those are not recommended right now. If you were to do a buffet, for example, at a hotel I recently inquired at, if you do a buffet, you have to have sneeze guards in front of all the food, which I totally understand and respect. I think that's a great idea. However, you do have to have staff behind the sneeze guards serving each person, which is fine. The person isn't allowed to hold on to their plate. The staff holds on to the plate and puts everything and then hands it around once the plate is done. So that's a little different from your normal buffet because you'd hold the plate and you'd walk up and put it on yourself. So that's a little different. And I feel like people don't really think about, that kind of stuff, but we're in different times. So if you did want a buffet, and your venue, had restrictions or you didn't know how to go about that, it's always a question that brides and grooms can ask if the venue would feel comfortable if a staff member served the food the entire time, if a buffet is what you're looking for.
Yeah. And I also think that in like today's times, I always say that brides and grooms really need to be somewhat flexible at this point because there's so much time, money, energy, like thinking that's going on behind the scenes of all the professionals on your event on how to make it what you want while making it safe for all your guests and all the employees.
Right. Yeah. And even, typically you'd have one server behind a buffet and, the person would just hold their plate and, the person would serve. But now with like staff holding the plate and serving, a hotel is behind the scenes thinking, okay, well, that requires double the staff because now you have to bring in someone to serve everything. But those people that were serving were probably going to be cleaning and clearing, but you can't have that because you need attendance all night at the buffet. So it's just a lot of, behind the scenes, but I can say that the hotels and the venues here are 100% trying to make it seem like, COVID isn't a thing right now and following guidelines. So it's good for our brides and grooms just because, during their wedding, they can have some sense of normalcy, which we haven't had in a while. So yeah. I will say they're doing their best.
Absolutely. Now I wanted to touch on the fact that you are now engaged. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you very much.
I'm sure when you're working events all the time and now it's like, it's your turn, it's how you want it to be. what can you tell everybody about planning of your day? What are some things that you're doing that you like, that you would be like a non-negotiable? You're like, this is my day. I know this industry backwards and forwards, and this is what I want.
So I've always wanted to get married in Key West. So I'm getting married this year in Key West at Southernmost Beach Resort. I've always wanted an outdoor ceremony, cocktail, and reception. I never wanted to be in a ballroom or inside of a building, and not that they're not gorgeous. I just always wanted everything to be outside. My fiance and I love the beach. We love Key West. So it was an easy decision for us when we got engaged to go venue hunting in Key West. So ceremony wise, it's on the sand. It's on like this raised deck overlooking the water. Absolutely beautiful. Cocktail hour is going to be on this lawn that overlooks the water as well. And then my reception is on a private beach. And then I'm a huge food person. So absolutely non-negotiable for me was having a raw bar. I know some brides are like, absolutely non-negotiable for me is like the and champagne, or like I have to wear Manolos, or like my dress is gonna be from Vera or Berta. And I'm like, I want a raw bar. Like, where's the crab? Where's the seafood? So raw bar is non-negotiable. And then I do have my dress. It is from Pronovius. It's really, I mean, it's stunning, and it's nothing like what I thought I would pick.
I feel like that's usually how it works out, right?
Yeah, I always heard that. And I've been dress shopping with my clients before, and they've showed me pictures of ball gowns or mermaid or sweetheart neckline. And they'll go in, they'll try on the dress, and they're like, oh, it's okay. And the person at the, bridal shop will be like, just try this. And you've seen it in the movies. They're like, no, that's not for me. Like, and then they put it on, and it's like this huge, like, aha, like Cinderella moment. And like, you really cry. So when I was going shopping, I'm like, okay, I'm 100% not going to cry. Like, I'm not like that. I mean, I'm not the one. So I went to a couple places before I found my dress, put, a lot of dresses on, and I'm like, oh, this is absolutely gorgeous. And my mom and mother-in-law went with me, and they're like, yeah, but you're not crying. Like, there's no tears, like you see on Say Yes to the Dress. And I'm like, you guys, there's not going to be tears. Like, I'm not going to cry when I put on a dress. So, I mean, little did I know. So I went to Pronovius here on Coral Gables on Miracle Mile, and tried on a couple dresses. And I saw this one dress, again, totally not what I expected. And I asked my salesperson if I could try it on. And she said, oh, I didn't pull it because it's just not you. And I'm like, let me just try it to try it. When I put it on, I'm telling you, I was hysterical. I'm like, what is wrong with me? It's like, I was like totally shocked that I cried, but I guess it is true. Like, when you put on the dress and you cry, that's the dress. So super excited. Can't wait till it gets here and to wear it.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like it's funny because we all have this vision in our head of what we want things to look like. And then once we get into it, it's like, oh, you know what? Like, I always have this fear that when it's my time, that like if I were to try on so many dresses, I would have like dress regret,
Yeah.
like buy one and then be like, oh my God, should I have gone with that? So I feel like I will have some of that, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm the worst when it comes to that. Like, even if I'm in like Zara and I have two tank tops in my hand and they're like $9.99, I asked my fiance, I'm like, babe, which one do you think, like, should I get this one or should I get that one? He's like, just grab the purple one. Like, you love that color. So I'll put the other color back. And while I'm in line, I'm like, no, I think like I should get the blue. And he's like, babe, at this point, just get both. Like, you're stressing me out. And I thought I would be like that too. So like I said, I went dress shopping before I found my dress, and I have like 30 pictures in my phone of dresses that I've tried on. And I tried on my dress, bought my dress, and every so often I look at pictures of all of them, like just to make sure that like I'm still good and I like mine. And there's never not a time where I'm like, my dress is absolutely the best out of these 30. So you say that now, but like when right?
Yeah, right. True. Plus, I mean, you're gonna have that raw bar, and that is important. As people who've worked in catering, we know how important the food is.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say for me, I'm like, I need to see like a plethora of dessert. Like, there's not going to be just wedding cake for me. Like, I need like several hundred to feel like good about it.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm not doing a plated dinner. I'm doing just like all past hors d'oeuvres throughout the night, like heavy reception. So I think I have like 16 or 17 hors d'oeuvre choices, and they'll be passed continuously for 2 hours. And everyone's like, Taylor, like 16, 17 options plus the other stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's about to be 20 options. Like, I just need to see like 1,000 things going on, or like 1,000 being passed, and then I'm going to be okay.
No, I'm honestly, I'm the same way. I love to see like multiple things, and then I'd be like, yeah. So I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah. Big food person.
Now, I don't know if this has really been more of like a trend in Florida, but over here in New York, we've seen like micro weddings is
Mm-hmm.
all that we could do for so long. We were only allowed 50 people between July through now on Long Island. At least in the city we were allowed 50 people, but only for a short amount of time, and now we're going up to a maximum of 150 come next month,
Okay.
which is great. But
Mm-hmm.
do you think that like micro weddings the thing over there of like 50 people?
Yeah, it is a thing. And I think we'll see it. I mean, not only here in Florida, but everywhere throughout the remainder of the year, and maybe even, into early 2022. So I had a huge wedding booked for November of last year. And then back in April, we made the decision to postpone it. However, my couple still wanted to get married, so they, didn't let COVID stop them. So they just got married together at the courthouse, but they wanted to do something, for their immediate family, to kind of celebrate that they got married. So we did a micro wedding in their backyard at their home for 17 people. And we went from a wedding of 150. So 17-person wedding in the backyard. And it was absolutely stunning. We set up a beautiful arch underneath the tree in their backyard. We set up dinner for 17 on the patio. We did this really amazing royal table for 17 guests. And we had it catered. So we did a buffet. And because it was in a home, they were fine with everyone serving themselves. But they had a, great little open bar that they set up. And I mean, I think it's special. And, they got married at their home in their backyard, and, they'll have that memory with them forever. Like they'll look out under the tree in like 5 years or 10 years, with their kids, and, be able to tell the story about like how they got married under that tree. So micro weddings are also going to be big in hotels. I know a lot of hotels here are doing like micro wedding packages. So for example, it's like an all-inclusive fee of $5,000, and it includes white garden chairs for 25 guests, hors d'oeuvres for 25, a champagne toast, and then a 3-course dinner, something small. But a lot of venues are doing that. And I think it's enticing for brides when they see like a flat fee of $5,000, and they're like, oh, well, I have 25 people, so I could be, all in for 5,000 and just have to bring in some, pretty flowers and a nice music. Like, I'm in, sign me up. So I think that's definitely going to be a thing of this year and into next year.
At weddings in Florida right now, is dancing allowed?
Dancing is allowed, yes. And, hotels can always enforce masks, and they do a pretty good job at them. I've seen on my site visits, everyone in the hotel and the person you're touring with is wearing a mask. And of course we are too. Dancing is allowed. It's up to the discretion of the bride and groom. And it's up to the discretion of the bride and groom if they want their guests to wear masks while dancing, or kind of doing like a socially distant dance thing, but it is allowed.
Yeah, We don't have clarity on that over here yet. I'm hoping that it will be allowed, but our governor has not given any clear guidelines, we'll put it that way.
It is,
New York.
I mean, the dancing part is confusing. I mean, I feel like once you sit at a ceremony, even with the 50 guests that you invited, then you all go to cocktail hour together, then you sit down for reception together. I mean, is it like really that bad if you get up and dance with someone, for a song or two and then sit back down and,
Right.
other people dance? It's a gray line. It's a gray area that we're walking.
Yeah, no, it is. It's so confusing, but hopefully we'll start to see some normalcy.
Yeah.
With everything. Of course, now we're really getting into 2021 with it being middle to end of February. So I'm hopeful for over here for New York. I know kind of the rest of the country is a little more open than here. But here where I am, it's been pretty closed for a long time.
Yeah, Florida's definitely been much more open than places like New York or, LA or even Chicago. So the wedding trends and the micro weddings that Florida's been doing, for the past 4 or 5 months, you guys are just starting to pick up on. So I think once, your restriction goes to 150 guests, like you were saying, I think you guys are going to be like flooded with, people who are like, all right, let's get married.
Yeah, I do think that we will still see like that micro weddings will be a trend for a long time, even
Yep.
maybe post this COVID world, because people are seeing, hey, I'm not going to do 200 people, but I'm going to do 75 and make it incredible, like insane over the top.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, not that you can use COVID as an excuse for not wanting to invite your mom's 9 coworkers and like Aunt Jackie who you've never met. But if you do need an excuse, now's the time to say like, with COVID, I'd rather take, our 140 person guest list with, mom's friends and make it 75 with our closest friends. And we'll just have mom's friends like, maybe set up a Zoom link or something. A lot of people are doing the virtual ceremonies. So I think it's a good time for people to, use that excuse a little to do a smaller wedding. Yeah. And then like you said, go all out, like do an amazing, like 4-course dinner, add in an appetizer, do a beautiful family style dessert display. So I think there's lots of options, to spend money wise. If you were going to pay for 200, now you're only paying for 75.
Now you can really get those floral arrangements that
right?
you want and not worry about, completely breaking the bank.
Right? Upgrade the bar to the premium package, bring in the, satin linens, bring in the sequin run, whatever you want.
I always said for myself, I always said, I'm like, I don't want to go above 150 people. Like that's what I want. 150, like getting to 200, it's too much at that point. Like I don't want to like have to cut what I want because
of guests.
Of guests. And now after this year, I was like, you know what? I think I could do 75 when I got married. I was like, I think I could easily do 75, make it really intimate, really nice. Yeah.
Definitely. I never wanted a big wedding and my fiance always felt the same. So we're inviting 73 people and we're hoping for like 60, maybe even a little less. And I get asked all the time, they're like, oh, is that because of like COVID? And I'm like, no, it's just because I don't like that many people. 2, I have like the same friends from elementary school. And 3, I just always wanted something on the intimate side.
Yeah. I also feel like when you work in the industry, you almost kind of have that set idea of like what you want, that it almost doesn't matter what everybody else does. You're not heavily influenced by that because you've had the plan for years of what you want and what will work for you.
Yeah. And you've also been around like 400 person weddings and you've seen 200 person events. And once you get that in your head that maybe you want to be on the smaller side, like that's it. You've made your mind up, like seeing another 400 person wedding is not going to change your mind to add more people.
No.
Yeah.
When I see a 400 person wedding, it like confirms my thought process that I want something on the smaller side.
You're like, okay, that was a great idea, only inviting 73 guests, because this 400 looks crazy.
Yeah. And then it's just, as the bride, making sure that you're going to say hi to everyone and like make everybody feel welcome. And 400 people is a lot of people to shake hands with and a hug and say hi.
It's a lot. And then most people want pictures with you. So you're being, pulled in 10 different directions, and, not to deter people from having large weddings. If that's what you want, that's 100% what you deserve. But in regards to micro weddings, I think they're good talking points for someone who's considering one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you, I ask everybody this when they come on. Now, you're meeting with so many brides and grooms throughout this time who are planning their day. What advice do you have for a couple who's currently planning during this pandemic?
Yeah, so I would say try and be flexible and open with dates. A lot of people from 2020 moved their weddings into 2021, and that took up probably 50% of the available dates that hotels and venues had to offer. Like let's say you worked in a hotel and in April you had 9 weddings, and those 9 weddings had to move into 2021 this year, they're going to try and pick another April date, or they're going to spread into, March or May. So where a venue would have 9 available Saturdays, they now, have, 4. So try and be flexible with your date. Friday and Sunday weddings are always less expensive in rental fees and food and beverage minimums at hotels and venues. So if you are trying to save or even do something smaller, think about a Friday and Sunday. I'm getting married on a Friday. I've always loved the idea of a Friday wedding. It gives you Saturday to wake up, relax, do a really fun brunch, and still, have Sunday before people have to fly home or get back to work. So, keep that in mind. I also like the idea. I read this really cool article the other day. Let's say there's absolutely no way you can cut down your guest list. Like your guest list is 250 and that is what it is. However, your venue is only allowing you 150. Do a virtual, ceremony, have those people be able to log in on, Facebook Live or a Zoom link or whatever whatever you want to set up or your DJ wants to set up. But if you want to make those other 100 people or, 50 couples still feel like they were part of the day, I actually love the idea of sending them like a favor, because the guests that are coming to the wedding, they're going to get a favor, and they're going to be, they're going to get like a photo booth strip or be a part of the experience. Send them like a mini bottle of champagne with your name on it and have them like, drink it during the ceremony while they watch you. I think it's just a special way to let them know that, you wish they were there with you, although they aren't.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. Plus, something that we didn't touch on too much is that virtual ceremonies are going to be a thing for probably a while for people who are just nervous to travel, or, or the guest capacity, they can't have what they were supposed to have. And, having a planner, you're able to navigate that for the couple about should they need to set up Zoom, set up Facebook Live, like anything like that.
Yeah, my sister got married a couple months ago, and she had a small wedding, only 25 people. And unfortunately at the time, like, my aunts and uncles couldn't come, and they were just a little nervous to travel, which I totally understand. But most of those people that you invite are going to send you a wedding gift. So my sister wanted to do something special for them, and she had they're like huge into cooking. So they made like a custom spice for like food. And they sent it to everyone who couldn't come to the wedding, just because, like my sister still wanted them all there. And I thought it was sweet to make them feel included, and like she did want them to come. So I like that idea. Have them log on to the virtual ceremony, and do something a little extra to make them, feel like they didn't fully miss out on the day.
Absolutely. And honestly, everybody likes a little swag or
Yeah.
something.
Everyone always wants like a coaster set, or
Mhm.
people love taking that kind of stuff home. So, send it. If you have extra, send them to people.
Yeah. I see a lot of bottle openers and I'm always like, I need one of those. Like,
Yeah.
I need it for my
Always
kids. So
open.
perfect.
You always need a set of coasters, because like you don't want to ruin your like wood table or get like a, wine stain on your glass living room coffee table. Like people always love that stuff. So, when you're doing the ordering, like order 10 or 15 extra and send them to the people who couldn't be here that are closest to you.
Definitely. Definitely. Everybody likes a little something.
Yeah, everyone loves a tchotchke. That's what my dad says.
It's so true. It's so true.
Um, then, one more thing in regards to planning, like on the food side. So, like I said, I know most hotels aren't doing buffets. A lot of them aren't doing, like the sushi boats and the huge garden table and charcuterie boards. So, I toured a venue a couple weeks ago, and my client wanted a sushi boat and they wanted stations for their wedding. So I sat down with the catering manager and I asked, like, how can we make this happen for them? Like they've waited long enough to get married. We've moved the wedding. Like, what can we do to make this happen? So the chef at her hotel came up with this amazing idea. And instead of like, you've seen those sushi boats, they're like 6 feet long and they like 500 pieces of sushi on them. And everyone like attacks them with like tongs. And honestly, pre-COVID, I feel like people would just grab pieces with their hands. Like
Yeah.
we never thought twice about it. So the chef came up with the idea. He found mini sushi boats online. They're literally like this big,
Oh, so
and you can fit like 4 pieces of sushi, the wasabi, and the ginger. How cute is that to display something like that? Each guest grabs their own, and then you don't have to worry about like the touching and the fingerprints, or you have a staff member pass them out. So then each person gets their, own little boat with having to worry about, did like someone touch the tongs? Did someone touch their fingers and touch, a teriyaki packet or whatever that looks like? So I think, like a trend moving into this year and something to help with planning, ask your catering manager if they're flexible with doing smaller plates, mini cheese boards. Can you, instead of doing, a whole garden display like with veggies and dips and all that stuff, can you do them in small cups? And I think that's a good way to kind of get around the buffets and the display options.
and it's also modernizing the industry.
Yeah.
Honest, people want to see that like things advance with time. And if things
Right.
stay the exact same, it's very old school. It's like how when I was bat mitzvah, chair covers were the biggest thing ever,
Yeah.
right? You could have them in any print, any fabric. At my bat mitzvah, I had like, I forgot what color they were. I want to say they were white, but they had a big silver velvet bow. And at the time, like that was so high end. Like I was ahead of the time with that. Now I'm like, oh my God, a chair cover? That's disgusting. Like I could never put that on. So
Yeah.
it's just about it's just
Yeah.
about like changing with the time, seeing what else you can do to kind of like also make your day a little bit different than everybody else's.
Yeah. It's essentially like customizing your day. And like how many weddings or events that have you been to or hosted where they have a charcuterie board? Like everyone sees that with the meats, with the cheeses, you put it on a plate. But how cute would it be if you had your own like mini charcuterie board? It had 3 pieces of cheese, it had like like the cute folded meats, a couple olives, a little apple slice, and like
Yep.
a piece of spaghetti on your own like little board. How cute is that? Most people probably haven't seen that because there's always like the huge, 6-foot boards with piled with meat. But I think it's like setting the tone. It's custom. It looks expensive. It looks like you paid more.
Yeah.
And I think, like moving forward with, being or having the restrictions that we do, it's kind of the way to go.
It's definitely the way to go. It's also on like a professional standpoint, it's like it's a lot more useful than wasteful because
Hmm.
like what people don't understand is that during cocktail hour sometimes a lot of stuff does go to waste,
Hmm.
and things like that during this time would certainly go to waste because you can't, pick and grab like you used to be able to. So to have your own individual things, it's safer, it's like cleaner, it's neater, and honestly, it's more on trend for something new.
Yeah. I mean, back in the hotels I used to work at, cocktail hour, the end of cocktail hour was my absolute favorite time to be a catering manager because
100%.
so much leftover food. I'd run into the kitchen the second it ended. And, I'd be in the kitchen in my heels, like looking in the fridge, and I'd be like, where's the leftover hors d'oeuvres? Like I
Yep.
need food. And the chef would always be like, okay, one, get out of the kitchen in your heels. And two, it's on a plate for you, because there's always so much leftover food. There's so much
Yeah,
waste.
there is so much waste. And I also agree with you. I'm the type, the second the cocktail hour is ending, I'm like, where's the mini pigs in a blanket? I need it. I need it.
Yeah.
I need it. And then, whatever stations they had, like, you know, I'm going to see what's there. I'm starving.
Yeah. Give me the shrimp cocktail. And I'm also,
The shrimp cocktail.
yeah, I'm also, well, was the kind of catering manager. Like if chef made the overage of, like, chefs always make the overage of food just in case, someone switches, or God forbid, they drop a plate. Um, so sometimes at the end of the night, like if a vendor didn't eat or whatever the case was, and there was like 17 leftover meals, I'd be like, where's the to-go boxes? I need a filet. I need a salmon to go. Like, I'm bringing.
Because your fiance too is probably like so used to you doing that he's like, hello, where's my
Yeah.
fiance?
Where's, I thought you were home dinner. I'm like, babe, you've been alone for 14 hours and you couldn't figure out dinner, but here I am.
You should have been able to figure out dinner, but no worries. I brought
No,
it home anyway.
thank God. Okay.
No, that is so true. I would have, if they had like take home dessert and there was all like stuff left over. My
Uh,
before so I like grew up in kosher catering, and my dad
okay.
would be like, can you bring me home some like halava? Can you bring me home some manzo bread? So like I would have a doggy bag that I brought home for my dad.
Yeah, I worked at a property for a little over 2 years. And, after like the year mark where you're comfortable with everyone and you're doing a wedding every weekend, you become super close with, chef and banquet captain and servers. So, towards the end of me working in one of the hotels, they would just know to pack it up for me. Like, I didn't have to ask anymore. I'd be leaving. I changed from my heels to flats, and I'd be walking through the banquet hall in my flats, and they'd be like, "Oh, Taylor, we have your packaged food over here. I wrapped it up for you." And I'm like, "Oh, you guys are like my like Lord and Savior."
That's the dream.
Yep,
That's
that's
the dream. Well, Taylor, it has been so fun to have you on. Uh,
thank you again for having me.
we'll definitely well, first, actually, where should everybody follow you so they can learn more about Florida weddings and your planning, and talk to you about their date and maybe being able to hire you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at weddings by Taylor Reis, and that's Taylor and Reis. So weddings by Taylor Reis. I post lots of pictures, and sometimes I'll post should you do a first look or should you not. And recently I've been posting some trends that I see upcoming, so like the smaller food. So reach out on there. Even if you just have a planning question and you don't need a planner, I'm always here to give really good advice on what to do and what I think. So reach out. I'd love to chat. My email and my phone number are on there. For anyone who is getting married in Florida, micro wedding, large wedding, whatever wedding, I will help you out.
Perfect. So all of my Florida people, you have to reach out to Taylor. I'm
Yes.
wishing I was in Florida, but
Oh,
next time I come, we'll have to meet in person.
Yes, we will meet in person. We will do a cocktail. We can do a shrimp cocktail, a super boat, and a raw bar.
You're speaking my language.
Yeah, get here.
I know. Literally, I'm 1 second away from booking a trip. I'm
Yeah.
over this this New York snow and the darkness and the freezing. And every day I see people on Instagram in Miami and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing here?
Yeah. I mean, not to rub it in, but it was a perfect beach day today. It was 85, sunny all day, super hot, and like literally not a cloud in the sky. So
Oh my
a
God.
little weird situation, and not to rub it, but it was nice today.
I know that is what I need. I need that sunshine badly, so badly. Well, Taylor, I want to really thank you for coming on today. It's been fun having you on, and I wish you like the most prosperous 2021 and
Thank
beyond. And hopefully, we'll be able to put this COVID crap behind us sooner rather than later.
Yes, definitely sooner, not later. And thank you so much. And hopefully New York picks up a little soon. And I can wish all you all the success.
Thank you so much. Yes, yes, we definitely have some brighter days ahead.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
looking forward to it for sure.
Cool.
Well, everybody, thank you all so much for tuning in to the Bridetender podcast. We have a new episode every single Monday that you can catch on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere that you listen to podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If you're not already following me, go follow me on Instagram at the Bridetender, where I tell you fun facts on the wedding industry, ways to save money on your special day, and hiring the best in the business to execute your wedding. Make sure to also go follow Taylor at Weddings by Taylor Reis and learn about Florida weddings. Maybe you're actually from out of state, but you're looking to get married in Florida, and Taylor could be your perfect resource for that. Until next week, mix yourself a cocktail, slide into my DMs with questions you want answered on all things weddings. Stay sane, stay healthy, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.